We've got the Eagles cut downs. They should be official now. We'll see if there's a surprise in the mix here. It doesn't sound like a surprise in the mix is coming, but we will take a look as this has to be finalized at 4 o'clock today. A couple interesting names out there. It looks like Patrick Robinson is going to make the list for the roster for the Eagles. And don't forget, this is the final. Not the final. This is just the 53. It's the initial 53-man roster. It's just the initial 53-man roster. It is not the final 53-man roster. And we will dive into some of that right now with Adam Caplan from the Inside the Birds podcast as he joins us here on another edition of Football at 4 on the Sports Bash. Adam, how are you, sir?
I'm good, yeah. So it's been an interesting day. You know, I've covered the cut down day to 53, and you're right, Mike. It's never ever final. It's not called the fluid 53. You have to initially be at 53, and then you can't go over that number for the rest of the season. Now, of course, you can go under it. This roster manipulation is going to happen, Mike. We've got the practice squads tomorrow. Usually around 1 Eastern is when you could start filling it out. But the cut down to 53, IR moves, PUP moves, NFI moves, they all have to be made. We'll see what happens. Yeah, the Eagles have not released it yet. I just checked. I look at my text here, my email, and I've talked to some agents today. There'll be some interesting things that are going to happen. The Eagles may be bringing some familiar faces back. We will see that we're with them in the past, depending on whether these players become available or not from other teams.
Yeah, and before we kind of go through the roster real quick and kind of see what's left over here, other teams are making moves too, so that's why we say the initial, because you might get down to 53 and then see somebody you like on the street and bring them in. I don't know how closely you've been watching, if there's any names that have been kind of eye-opening out there yet, but that's something that the Eagles will get down to 53 as they're scouring what else has kind of hit the streets.
Yeah, so basically what happens is teams are monitoring, believe this or not, because I've talked to a couple GMs last week, they have... If they're not monitoring social media, people under them are. So they want to know who's been cut, who's been traded. The earlier they know that, the easier it is to plan for this day to day. And also, who is waived. That's a big thing because waiver claims. There's usually between 20 and 30 players are claimed off waivers on the day after the roster cuts. 1 year there was only like 13 or 14. But he averages generally, I'm told, 20 to 30. 30 is a little bit high, but it has happened before. It just depends on the year. But yeah, Mike, that's exactly what's happening. Teams are monitoring this stuff. And what will happen is, and it's really bad, and agents have to be careful of this, they'll tell a reporter, oh yeah, my guy made the 53, only to be waived the next day when the team claims players. So it's a very odd thing. You got to be very careful.
And the Eagles are keeping James Bradberry on the 53. So let's kind of start there, because I don't know if that's a huge surprise. But, you can kind of go a little further on that. Bradberry is on the initial 53. What could be happening, you said, for now?
Yeah, so what I'm told with his contract is that, for cap purposes, he's got a fully guaranteed option bonus. For cap purposes, they have till Tuesday of week 1 to exercise it, which they'll do, not just for cap purposes, just to save money. Again, now the other thing is, and they could always exercise it, then cut him. And here are all the moves, Mike. Here are the moves, Mike, as we speak. Burks cut, Campbell cut, Gates, Greer, Hennessy, Nickerson, Aquara, John Ross, Sharping, Toth, waived, Donkwa, Ayadze, Davis Price, the running back, Gabe Hall, Jacob Harris injured, wave injured. Josh Jobe was cut, and of course we expected that. Joseph Ngata was hurt. We didn't know that. He was wave injured. Caden Stearns was waived with a non-football injury. He could be back, and as I expected to happen, Sidney Brown was not activated off of PUP. Mike, on IR were Albert O and Anais Smith. So nothing, Mike, just so you understand, anyone who covers this team is rarely surprised by anything. Now, I will tell you, though, it's a small surprise. For now, Eli Ricks is on the team. For now. Again, I said for now.
Yes, Eli Ricks on the team for now. I have the email as well with the names out so we can kind of pick on. Oren Burks did not make the team. A lot of people thought that, he played well throughout this preseason and had the, experience that he was good enough to make the team. We've been talking a lot about the linebackers and where they are. It seems that the Eagles like the five guys. They don't have a guy that's maybe that standout one, but they seemingly like all five of the guys to the point that a guy like Burks, who has some experience, did not have a spot.
The problem with Burks is, Mike, is he got hurt. And he came back, for about 2 weeks. It's just he was in a tough spot. I look at my 53 that I had. I had him off the roster. I had the five that made it. I did not have Paris Campbell on it. He didn't make it. But getting back to inside backer, it's all about developing players. And Ben Van Sumeren has shown, and we reported this at the time, that when he played that great game against the Giants. When I say great, we had another team tell us, Mike, that when they because it was a future team that the Eagles were playing after the Giants, they were kind of shocked because they didn't think he was even worth having on a team based on the way he played at Michigan State because he's so raw. He was so explosive that game. And then we had, of course, Greg Cosell from NFL Films who worked for us who came on and said, wow, I didn't know much about Van Sumeren, but his tape was really good. So good for the Eagles to keep him and let him develop.
Yeah, there's some other names, too. Let's get your thoughts on no Paris Campbell. For a while there, he looked like he was going to be the third receiver on this team. He went from third to out. Also, John Ross, another wide receiver who got released.
So, a couple things on Paris Campbell. We reported at the time the Eagles signed him that he was benched for practice participation for performances with the Giants. That's exactly why they cut him. He was actually benched. He actually had a bad practice, and Dayball told him to get off. They told the coach to get him off the field, and he just was in. You heard Mike his press conference maybe a month ago. He was very open about. He was down in the dumps about what happened last season, and he had to get his confidence back. He just didn't perform, Mike. No, he could. Practice squad's certainly possible. You could have up to 6 veterans on there. They need a veteran receiver on the practice squad. I mean, it would definitely help them. But that was not a surprise at all. The only one is Brett Toth. Now he's contract terminated because he's actually vested. But here's the question I would ask the Eagles: this: who is their backup center? Because Matt Hennessy, as we expected, was also cut. I get it that McMahon is on the roster, but he can't be serious. He cannot be. He's not ready. He's not ready. If Cam Jurgens gets hurt, he cannot be the starting center. Well, no way.
McMahon got waived.
Was he cut? Was McMahon cut?
He was waived, yes. Dylan McMahon was cut. Sharping and Hennessy were both released as well. Nick Gates, by the way, and Gates got released, and Brett Toth.
Yes. Okay, so here's the deal. By the way, I had McMahon not on the team. Not on my 53. Actually, I did. This is one of the best 53s I've done. I'm shocked that I got this many right. I only got like 2 or 3 wrong, but they've got an option here. Okay. Gates is not eligible for waivers. He's a vested veteran. Mosher said this to me 20 minutes ago. I thought this was a great point. Just put him on your practice squad. Now, you only have 3 practice squad elevations, but what they can do is let him practice during the week, elevate him on Saturday, Mike. From the practice squad, for the first 3 weeks. If they like the way he looks, then you have to sign him off there to get him on your roster. And they could always do that, Mike. So you don't really need to have anyone else on your roster who could play center right now, but you're going to need him by week 1. That has to happen. Now, in an emergency, Dickerson could do it if he needed to in game because he's done it. But I think the big disappointment here, Mike, is that Matt Hennessy never worked out. I'm a little surprised. I'm not surprised he was cut. It was obvious about a month ago it wasn't working out. I'm just surprised that he just never could catch on. Then he had a minor injury. He was limping around in practice for a bit, but yeah, McMahon didn't make it. Mike, I did not have him in my 53. I thought he's way too small, and he needs to get stronger physically. It's and we as you know, Mike, because you and Jeff talked about it yesterday. This misnomer, like, oh yeah, Roseman doesn't cut his draft picks. No, that's false. He's cut 6 players. The highest drafted player he's ever cut when he's had personnel control was that quarterback back in 2019.
Yeah, Caleb Thorson.
Yeah, Caleb Thorson, right. And by the way, he refused to sign with the Eagles practice squad. If you remember, he signed with Dallas, which pissed the Eagles off. But Howie's cut 6 when he's made the call. But yeah, when you look at it, they're a little bit light on the offensive line.
Well, I was going to say you cut Gates, Hennessy, Sharping, and Brett Toth. That's 4 guys who all, you could have said one of those guys could have been your backup center. Now none of those guys are here.
Mike, so right now, let's extrapolate. Fred Johnson's your backup left. Steen could be a backup tackle, or he could obviously play right guard, which he will. One guy we had on the roster, I think all me, Andrew, and Jeff had, Jaron Kennard as a backup right tackle. Right now he is. Gates is off. Toth is off. Poe is off. Yeah, I think they have, let's see, Keegan, they have 9 guys on their offensive line, so I had 10. Keegan's right now a one-position player. He's only been a left guard. He has not taken any reps at right guard or center. So that's it, Mike. I mean, it's nothing really earth-shattering.
What about McCollum making the team?
I had him on my 53. Here's why. Absolutely ace special teams player. And here's what one person told me. His brother Zion is on Tampa. It's one of their top 3 outside corners. Yes, he's a tall safety at just under 6'3", but he can play corner if you need him to. And he was on their practice squad all of last season, Mike, and he actually got activated, I think, for a week or 2. They like the kid. This is a good find for the Eagles. He had a very good training camp. The coaches will tell you, as they've told me and personnel people, guys play themselves on the roster and off of it. You kind of know by the end of training camp, Mike, who should be on this team. Are you going to make a mistake sometimes? Absolutely. They don't give the answers to the test until these guys actually play. But I didn't have E.J. Jenkins on it. He's a developmental player. You can't see, Mike. You can't put him on your roster and think, okay, he's ready to dress game day. He's not ready yet. He needs a little bit more work. But boy, he did a nice job. By the way, he's also subject to waivers.
All right. They only have 2 tight ends currently on this roster. Jack Stoll is on the streets. Donald Parham is also on the streets, who played with Kellen Moore last year. So which one makes more sense if they brought in a tight end? A guy who was here in Philly last year, or a guy who played in Moore's offense last year?
Parham. Here's why. Not only that, he's also 6'8". I was with the Chargers, I'm going to say 3 weeks ago, and I've been to their training camp since Parham was signed some years ago.
2020.
He looks like a basketball.
Yep.
He looks like a basketball player. I mean, he is a legit 6'8".
Yep.
And that would make more sense. Now, I am told with Jack Stoll, who was cut this morning, that he would be open. You should know this. We reported at the time that 2 teams offered him a deal, the Giants and the Eagles. He opted for the Giants because at the time it was really just Daniel Bellinger, and he knew that Darren Waller was going to retire. And what happened was, Mike, he didn't know that they were going to sign Chris Manhertz, who's one of the best blocking tight ends in the National Football League. It's the only reason that he's in the league, he can block. And also, he didn't know they were going to draft Theo Johnson. So that he was out of a job, and we're not. Mike, that makes the most sense. Parham Jr. is a blocking tight end. He could catch a little bit, but he's an inline tight end. They need one in a big way. That's why, if you remember, over the years, they would always seem to have some guy, Noah Tungiai, you might remember him, Jack Stoll, who, and by the way, Jack Stoll was a roommate, believe it or not, most people don't know this, of Cam Jurgens in Nebraska.
Yeah, there you go. 5 receivers for now. What do you make of that?
That's what I think. Let me see if I have that. Yes, I had that. We knew Ngata wouldn't make it anyway. He was wave injured, so he'll go to IR, and they could either keep him on there or they could reach injury settlement. So Johnny Wilson, now here's the thing. Now he's got a concussion. He's got to get cleared. Jacob Harris, our injured to Checo, reported, he had a couple of pretty significant injuries. So, you feel concerned about that. This is where Paris Campbell just going to the practice squad makes the most sense because he knows the scheme. Or anyone else, Mike, who's played for Kellen Moore over the years. How about Noah Brown, Mike? Noah Brown, who I believe was cut by the Texans today.
Yeah, he was cut by the Texans as well. So that's the next thing now. The Eagles 53 is complete. It is not finalized because now they'll start kicking the tires around the streets And there was a trade today, by the way. Ernest Jones got traded to the Titans. So that whole story was weird. He requested a trade, then he said he didn't request a trade. Well, guess what? You got traded. So that happened today. So things are continuing to happen. And, of course, we'll be keeping our eye on that here on Football at 4. But I guess there's some notable guys who did make the – Eli Ricks made the team. That was another guy.
Yeah, that one surprised me. All right, I'll admit he was not on my 53. I got to figure this one out. And I know he was a great story last year, but, man, as soon as this new staff came in, they demoted him. I mean, it's for the first time in I don't know how many years, Mike, the Eagles actually have depth at corner. I don't really understand it. It's unlikely he'll dress most weeks. Now, what we have not seen, Mike, is their first injury report is due Tuesday, not a week from today, because you have to have it out 3 days before the game. So they play Friday night, so they have to have injury report Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And the reporters, as you know, they don't get to watch practice. They get to watch the individual drills, the warm-up for 20 minutes. So we won't know for sure until we see if there's anybody hurt. I think I don't quite understand it. We need to look into why they have so many outside corners. Now, part of it, Mike, is they're trying to figure out where Cooper DeJean is going to line up. That they don't know that yet. We think he's more of a nickel, but we'll learn more as we go along.
Well, yeah, they kept 3 running backs, 2 tight ends, and 5 wide receivers. So they went light at a couple skill spots and added, as you mentioned, in the secondary. They only got the 4 safeties, one of which, Bradbury, is learning the spot there. They do have Maddox, and I guess Swings can play both. So they kept a little extra at certain spots and went light. Only the 3 running backs, only the 2 tight ends, 5 wide receivers. So fluid, I would say, is what we have with this roster.
Yeah, we always call it the fluid 53. It never stays the same. Initially, you have to be at 53, but you could start cutting guys tomorrow. And we'll see if they claim anyone off waivers. That's why I think with Eli Ricks, the guy. Now I'll give you this before we get out of here. Yep. We're also doing a show for Patreon, which is really going to be cool in about a half an hour. But the guys you got to watch out for, whether they'll be on the roster the next 2 or 3 days, would be Eli Ricks. This is depending on waiver claims. And guys, positions to be added, by the way, Mike, going forward, would be wide receiver. I would say wide receiver right now would be a position to keep an eye on because whether it's a waiver claim or a veteran, but again, Paris Campbell could go to the practice squad. They're going to have to do something at receiver for that. Now, defensive line, it went, according to Hoyle, it went exactly the way we thought it would. Gabe Hall never showed up in training. It just never happened. Boy, they have a pretty strong practice squad guarantee for him. You would expect him to go back there. And also defensive tackle for the practice squad is something that we expect him to take a look at. But, again, Ricks is the guy to keep an eye on if they have some claims tomorrow.
All right, good stuff. Adam Caplan here as the Eagles get down to 53, but not a final 53. That remains fluid until the start of the season, which is September the 6th. You can listen to the game right here on 97.3 ESPN. Adam Caplan, everybody. Thanks, bud.
Thank you.
There's Adam, and, of course, Football at 4 here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.